When the sirens faded and the last ember of my burning house curled into the sky, I stood there with nothing but the clothes on our backs and the shaking hands of my kids. Evan, my 7-year-old, kept coughing into his sleeve, eyes red from smoke. Mara, only 5, clung to my leg like she was scared the ground might open up too and take her next. "Mommy, where do we go now?" she whispered, voice trembling. I swallowed the burn in my throat. "Grandma and Grandpa's. They'll help us." I said it as if I still believed it, as if history didn't already warn me. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. The firefighters were packing their gear. One of them, a man named Clark who had helped carry my kids out, walked over. "You got someone to stay with tonight?" I nodded, pretending confidence I didn't feel. "My parents live 20 minutes away?" He hesitated like he could sense something wasn't right. "Take care of those kids. They've had a scare." I forced a smile and thanked him, then lifted Mara into my arms and took Evan's hand. We started walking. We had no car. Mine exploded in the fire. We had no money. My wallet was inside the house. We had no phones. Everything burned. By the time we reached my parents' street, my feet were numb. My kids were quiet in a way kids should never be quiet, like they were trying not to exist. I knocked on the door. A light flicked on. I exhaled in relief. Dad opened the door halfway and stopped. His eyes scanned me, then the kids, then the soot on our skin. "What the hell happened to you?" he asked, like we were street trash, not his family. "My house burned down," I said, voice cracking. We don't have anywhere else. We just need a place to sleep tonight. Just tonight." Before he could speak, Mom appeared behind him in her robe, holding her mug of chamomile tea like she had been enjoying a peaceful evening before our existence ruined it. She looked at my children, my scared, shivering babies, and frowned as if they were stray animals. "Your smoke follows you everywhere," she said, each word sharp enough to cut. "Don't bring it here." My mouth fell open. "Mom, we have nothing. The kids inhaled smoke. They need warmth." "Not my problem," she snapped. Dad stepped forward, blocking the doorway with his arm. "You always show up with disasters. We told you years ago, your choices are not our burden." "I didn't choose a fire," I screamed. "My kids are coughing. Mara can barely breathe." Mara whimpered at the mention of her name, her little fingers digging into my shirt. Mom leaned her head toward Dad. "Tell her to go. She ruins everything she touches." Dad's jaw tightened. "You heard your mother." "We're your family," I pleaded. Dad shoved the door harder, making me step back with the kids. "Not tonight. Not with all that crisis drama. Go find someone. Else who wants your smoke?" I reached out to stop the door from closing, but Dad slammed it hard, right into my hand, making me stumble backward. Evan gasped. "Mom, are you okay?" Then the lock clicked, then the deadbolt, then silence. My own parents, my kids' grandparents, left us outside in the cold night with ashes still in our hair. I pressed my forehead to the door. "Please, they're children. Help them. Don't do this to them." Inside, Mom's voice floated out, muffled but clear. "Kick 'em out. I want to sleep." Dad's voice followed. "She attracts trouble like smoke. They'll learn." The porch light switched off. Evan wiped his eyes with his sleeve. "Why don't they want us, Mom?" My legs nearly gave out. Mara whispered, "Did we do something bad?" I pulled them both into my arms, my voice shaking as I pressed my cheek to their hair. "No, you did nothing wrong. They're the broken ones, not you." But inside, my heart tore open. Something inside me snapped quietly. Not a poetic snap, not a soft one. A cold, sharp, irreversible breaking. We walked away from the house that had rejected us. Away from the parents who abandoned their own flesh and blood. Away from the last ounce of mercy I ever had for them. And as the cold wind hit us, Evan leaned against me and said, "What do we do now?" I stared ahead into the dark street. And for the first time in my life, my answer wasn't fear, it was a promise. "We survive," I whispered, "and they're going to regret everything." We walked through the neighborhood with nothing but night air and fear hugging our skin. Every step made Mara's small body shiver against my hip. Evan tried to act brave, but his little breaths kept catching, the way they do when a child is trying not to cry in front of their mom. Mom. My chest hurts, he whispered. I stopped immediately. His small hand pressed against his ribs, and panic surged through me. Smoke inhalation. The firefighters had warned me. We needed warmth, safety, anything. But the world felt like it had turned its back on us. I scanned the street and spotted an all-night laundromat glowing in neon blue. Not a home, but at least it wasn't the freezing outdoors. I pushed the door open, the bell above jingling weakly. A few machines whirred in the background. A tired old woman behind the counter looked up, startled by the sight of us. 3 soot-covered refugees. "You kids okay?" she asked, voice raspy. They need to warm up," I said. "Our house burned down." She stared for a moment, then quietly reached under the counter and offered a blanket. "Sit, please." I wrapped the blanket around Evan and Mara and sat them on a bench. Both kids curled into me, their heads on my shoulders, and that was when the guilt hit me like a truck. I let tears drip down my cheeks silently, not because of the fire, not because I had nothing, but because I believed for so long that my parents were incapable of this level of cruelty, and that belief had destroyed us tonight. Mara tugged my sleeve. "Mommy, why didn't Grandma hug me? She always hugs Ellie." Ellie, my sister's daughter, the golden child, the one who could sneeze wrong and still get praise while my kids had to prove they were worth existing. I lowered my head. "I don't know, sweetheart. Some people forget how to be human." Evan's voice cracked. "Why didn't Grandpa help us? I thought he loved us." My throat tightened so hard it felt like it might rip. "He loves who he wants to love," I whispered. "But I love you enough for all the people who don't." The laundromat lady approached, placing a small cup of warm water in their hands. "Poor babies," she murmured. "Your parents didn't take you in?" I laughed bitterly. "They locked the door on us." Her lips parted in disbelief. "What kind of monsters do that to children?" "Mine. My monsters. I had lived with them my entire life." While the kids rested, I sat up stiffly and stared at the wall of dryers spinning clothes in circles, feeling something coil inside me. A resolve I had never felt before. Up until now, I had always been the apologizer, the fixer, the one begging for scraps of affection. But tonight changed something fundamental. Tonight showed me exactly where my kids stood in my parents' eyes. Disposable. A ding from the laundromat door pulled me out of my thoughts. A man in a hoodie stepped in, glanced at us, then approached the counter. I didn't trust anyone anymore, not after tonight. But the laundromat lady waved him off. "They had a fire," she told him. "Leave them alone." He nodded awkwardly and moved on. It was almost sunrise when the lady gently nudged me awake. "Sweetheart, I can't legally let you stay when the morning staff arrives." "I understand," I said. I woke Evan and Mara, who hugged the blanket tighter. My kids still smelled like ash. We stepped back outside into the cold, pale morning, and then my phone buzzed. My stomach dropped. I had forgotten it was in my pocket the entire time because the battery had been almost dead. Miraculously, it still had 3%. A text from my sister blazed across the screen. "Mom said you tried to guilt them again. Stop making a scene. They don't owe you or your brats anything." My fingers curled around the phone so tight I thought it might crack. Mara looked up at me. "What did Auntie say?" I forced a smile. Nothing important. But inside, something broke deeper than before. Not sadness, not confusion, but pure clarity. They didn't think of us as family. They didn't even think of us as people. We passed my parents' house on the way to the bus stop. Through their window, I saw them having breakfast, laughing, drinking coffee like they didn't abandon 2 small children in the cold the night before. Evan whispered, "They're pretending we were never there." I put my hand on his shoulder gently. "Let them pretend. They'll stop laughing soon." His eyes flicked up. "What do you mean?" I didn't answer, because in that moment, the plan formed. Cold, clear, practical. Not poetic, not symbolic, not gentle. A plan built on their weaknesses, their habits, their patterns. A plan they would never see coming. We boarded the bus, and as the doors closed behind us, Mara laid her head on my arm and sighed shakily. "Mom, are we going to be okay?" I wrapped an arm around both kids, pulling them close. "Oh, honey," I whispered, "we're going to be better than okay." Because now, my revenge had already started. The morning after the fire, I filed the report. The officer looked at me like he couldn't understand how a family turns away burned children. I didn't explain. There was no point. People who haven't lived with monsters think monsters look obvious. My parents had left the world believing they were respectable, well-mannered retirees who did everything for their family. Fine. Let the world think that. I wasn't planning to win with words. I was planning to win with evidence. The firefighters had documented everything. Pictures of smoke on my kids' clothes, their temperatures, notes that my parents refused to take them in during freezing weather. I requested copies. Everything I needed to destroy them was already sitting in a digital folder. But revenge wasn't about embarrassing them. It wasn't about posting online. It wasn't about poetic justice. It was about cutting off everything they used me for. Because once I stopped being useful, their entire comfortable little world would collapse. My parents depended on me for more than they admitted. I paid their electric bill. I picked up their prescriptions. I drove them to appointments. I bought groceries for them every month. I repaired their house when things broke. I filed their taxes. I handled their bank issues because they couldn't navigate anything online. They liked to pretend I was worthless, but I was the only thing keeping their world running, so I stopped, cold turkey. First, I froze my automatic transfers. Then I called the pharmacy and removed my name from their pickup authorization. Then I called their doctor and withdrew myself as their appointment contact. By the time I was done, I had cut every invisible cord that held their lives together. 2 days later, the calls began. "Mom, why is the power off? Fix it now." Me, calmly, "I don't handle your bills anymore." Dad, "The pharmacy says no one can pick up my medication unless I come myself." "What the hell did you do?" "Nothing," I said. "They just need the primary patient going forward." Mom again, "We have an inspection next week. Who's going to fix the leak you said you'd handle?" "I'm not available." Dad snarled. "You owe us. We raised you." I almost laughed. "Last night proved you raised nothing." Then I hung up. For the first time in my life, it felt like I locked the door. But my revenge wasn't done. Not even close. My parents still had one thing they cared about more than money, reputation, or comfort: control. They thrived on knowing where I was, what I was doing, what I needed. They loved being the gatekeepers of help. So I ripped that away too. I blocked their numbers. I changed my email. I moved in with a coworker temporarily. I filed for relocation assistance due to the house fire, and while waiting for approval, I met with a counselor who helped me get temporary housing for families escaping crisis environments. The irony? My parents always told me I was dramatic for saying their cruelty was abuse, but the system recognized it immediately. They placed us in a clean, warm apartment while I got back on my feet. Evan and Mara slept in real beds for the first time since the fire. A week later, I received a letter. My relocation and emergency support were approved. We would be moved to a new, permanent place, safer, private, stable. The same day, my parents showed up at my coworker's building. They banged on the door like maniacs. "Open up! We deserve answers! You owe us respect! You embarrassed us! You made us look bad! And finally, we said we're sorry! Let us in!" That was the moment Evan looked up at me from the couch, eyes steady. "Mom," he whispered, "we don't have to, right?" I knelt next to him and Mara and kissed their foreheads. "No, baby, we never have to go back." My coworker recorded everything, the yelling, the threats, the entitlement, and handed me the phone. "Use it if you ever need proof," she said. I saved it in the same folder as the firefighter reports. My parents kept screaming for another minute until the building manager threatened to call the police, and that was the last time they saw us. We moved to our new home 3 days later, a quiet place with soft carpet and sunlight coming in through kitchen windows. I didn't tell them where. They were left with their broken bills, their unpaid repairs, their own messes. All the things I used to fix. They thought the cruelest thing they could do to me was lock the door in my face. They learned the hard way the cruelest thing I could do to them was never open mine again. My kids finally slept safe. I finally breathed without fear. And my parents? They were stuck in the smoke of their own making. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.